On July 10, 2025, Francesca Albanese, a United Nations Special Rapporteur, became the unprecedented target of U.S. government sanctions, a move that stunned the world and marked a new chapter in the ongoing struggle between human rights advocates and powerful states. This was not just any diplomatic dispute, but an extraordinary escalation. For the first time, a single human rights expert was singled out by the United States for punitive measures. The Trump administration's decision sent shockwaves through the international community, raising urgent questions about freedom of speech, the independence of UN experts, and the willingness of states to respect international norms. The sanctions were sweeping, designed to cripple Albanese's ability to travel, freeze her assets, and block her from accessing international financial systems, effectively trying to halt her work and isolate her from the world stage. Yet, Albanese stood firm in the face of this pressure, publicly condemning the sanctions as a blatant act of intimidation meant to silence her investigations and advocacy for Palestinian rights. Her defiance transformed what could have been a personal setback into a global test of international law, accountability, and the very principles the United Nations was founded to protect. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio justified the move with harsh rhetoric, accusing Albanese of bias and overstepping her mandate. But to many observers, the sanctions appeared to be direct retaliation for her unflinching reports on Israeli actions in the occupied Palestinian territories. Albanese's courage in the face of mounting political pressure inspired human rights defenders and civil society organizations worldwide, who rallied in her support and condemned the U.S. action as an attack on the entire human rights system. Her refusal to be silenced sent a powerful message to the Palestinian people and to all those fighting for justice, that her work would continue, undeterred by threats or sanctions. This confrontation quickly became a defining moment for the international human rights system, forcing governments, institutions, and the public to confront the risks faced by those who speak truth to power. It highlighted both the vulnerability and the remarkable resilience of those who challenge powerful states, and underscored the urgent need for stronger protections for independent investigators. In the end, Albanese's resolve transformed an act of intimidation into a rallying cry for justice, galvanizing a new generation of advocates and reaffirming the enduring importance of international law and accountability. To truly grasp the impact of the sanctions and the ongoing debate surrounding them, it's essential to first understand the person at the center of these discussions. We must look closely at Francesca Albanese herself, her background, her motivations, and the unique perspective she brings to her work. An Italian international lawyer and academic, Albanese has dedicated her entire career to the defense of human rights, with a particular focus on the plight of refugees in the Middle East. Her work has taken her from academic institutions to the front lines of humanitarian crises, where she has witnessed the realities faced by displaced communities. In 2022, she was appointed as the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories. This prestigious role is both independent and unpaid, requiring her to conduct impartial investigations into alleged human rights violations, often under intense international scrutiny. Albanese's reports are meticulously grounded in international law and shaped by her extensive experience working with both the United Nations and UNRWA. She draws on a deep well of legal expertise and practical knowledge gained from years in the field. She has authored influential works on the legal status of Palestinian refugees and the complex legal frameworks governing occupation, contributing significantly to academic and policy debates. Her expertise is rooted in rigorous scholarship, direct engagement with affected populations, and a steadfast commitment to objectivity, not driven by ideology or political agendas. Despite facing criticism and political pressure from powerful states like the U.S. and Israel, Albanese has consistently maintained a meticulous, evidence-based approach in her reporting, refusing to be swayed by external influences. The role of Special Rapporteur is inherently controversial, demanding not only legal expertise, but also the courage to challenge dominant narratives and confront uncomfortable truths in the international arena. Through her work, Francesca Albanese exemplifies the vital function of independent experts in defending the rule of law, upholding human rights, and ensuring that the voices of the vulnerable are heard on the world stage. The U.S. sanctions were triggered by Albanese's explosive report, From the Economy of Occupation to the Economy of Genocide. The report accused Israel of actions amounting to genocide in Gaza, arguing the campaign aimed to make the territory uninhabitable for Palestinians. Albanese detailed systematic destruction, bombing civilian infrastructure, blocking aid, and displacing the majority of Gaza's population. She also named international corporations complicit in the conflict, calling for them to halt business with Israel and face accountability. This expanded the scope of responsibility from states to the private sector, challenging the global systems enabling the violence. By labeling the situation genocide and implicating global actors, Albanese crossed a red line for Israel and the U.S. Her report set the stage for the unprecedented punitive response. The U.S. framed its sanctions not as a response to a human rights report, but as a condemnation of Albanese's character. Secretary of State Rubio accused her of anti-Semitism and supporting terrorism, serious charges meant to discredit her work. The administration objected to her engagement with the International Criminal Court and her calls for sanctions on companies supplying Israel. The U.S. has long opposed ICC jurisdiction over its citizens and Israel's, viewing Albanese's cooperation as a direct threat. Her use of terms like apartheid and settler colonialism further fueled U.S. and Israeli accusations of bias. Ultimately, the sanctions were part of a broader strategy to silence dissent and intimidate international experts. By targeting Albanese, the U.S. aimed to make an example of her and deter others from challenging its policies. The move revealed a pattern using economic power to suppress accountability. Albanese's response to the U.S. sanctions was swift and fearless. She called the measures Mafia-style intimidation, reframing the U.S. action as bullying rather than legitimate policy. Albanese made it clear sanctions only work if they instill fear, and she refused to be intimidated. Her defiance was both personal and strategic, signaling to other human rights defenders that retreat is not the answer. She emphasized that her work is grounded in evidence and legal standards, not opinion. Albanese's stand became a defense of the independence of UN special rapporteurs and a message of hope to Palestinians. Her refusal to back down was an act of solidarity with those living under occupation. To truly understand Francesca Albanese's work, we must first confront the staggering human cost of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a cost that is measured not just in numbers, but in shattered lives and lost futures. The Israeli occupation, which began in 1967, has led to decades of violence, displacement, and disenfranchisement for millions of Palestinians. Generations have grown up under military rule, facing daily restrictions on movement, access to resources, and basic rights. After the Hamas-led attack in October 2023, Israel's military response brought unprecedented destruction to Gaza, leaving entire neighborhoods in ruins and overwhelming the already fragile infrastructure. By July 2025, the death toll had surpassed 57,000 Palestinians, most of them women and children. Behind each number is a family torn apart, a community grieving, and a future stolen. Survivors now face relentless hardship. Food, clean water, and medical care are desperately scarce. Many live in makeshift shelters, struggling to find safety and dignity amid the devastation. The United States, while providing some humanitarian aid, has also supplied Israel with the weaponry used in Gaza. For many, this makes the U.S. not just a bystander, but a direct party to the conflict and its consequences. This complex and deeply politicized context makes Albanese's reports and the often polarized U.S. reaction so charged and contentious on the world stage. Her mandate is to bear witness, to document suffering, name violations, and demand accountability from those in power, no matter how uncomfortable the truths may be. Albanese's reports are not just academic documents, they are a living record of the immense human cost, and a direct challenge to the world's conscience and sense of justice. Her use of terms like genocide is not just a legal argument, but a reflection of the overwhelming scale and gravity of the tragedy unfolding before our eyes. The U.S. sanctions sparked immediate condemnation from human rights organizations worldwide. Groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch warned that targeting Albanese threatened the independence of all UN experts. They argued that if the U.S. could silence a rapporteur, it would set a dangerous precedent for other states. the Center for International Policy called the sanctions rogue state behavior, accusing the U.S. of undermining international law. This chorus of support reframed the issue. It was not about Albanese's character but about defending human rights principles. International solidarity became a shield for Albanese, amplifying her voice and credibility. The global response turned the U.S. action into a display of weakness, not strength. At stake is the independence of UN human rights experts, special rapporteurs who monitor abuses without fear or favor. The U.S. sanctions are a direct assault on this principle, sending a chilling message to all independent experts. If rapporteurs self-censor to avoid retaliation, the entire human rights system is weakened. Defending Albanese is about protecting the integrity of the UN's accountability mechanisms. Allowing this precedent would empower other abusers to silence critics. The system only works if experts are shielded from retaliation. That's why the international response has focused on the principle, not just the person. The fight for Albanese's independence is a fight for a world where facts matter more than power. Francesca Albanese's story is a lesson in courage and the cost of speaking truth to power. Her refusal to be silenced has made her a symbol for human rights defenders everywhere. The sanctions, meant to isolate her, have instead amplified her message and the plight of Palestinians. Albanese's stand shows that true power lies in moral clarity, not intimidation. The struggle for justice continues, but moments like these inspire others to demand accountability. Her courage is a rallying point for all who believe in human rights. Even in the darkest times, one person's integrity can illuminate the path to justice. Albanese's defiance ensures the quest for truth and accountability will go on, undeterred.